so I'm going to give it 2 takes. 2 takes only. If I fail again, I'll just give up. Hello there, and welcome. This is going to be my brief analysis of what is being called the spring update. Probably hit in the summer, or in the next couple of weeks, I would imagine. It looks set to go. Possibly going to be a few changes before it goes fully live, so I'm just going to add in my 2 cents. In quite a condensed way. There's just a few things I want to pick up on, but I will touch upon most of it here. I had noticed a few bugs with squad formations, notably catwalking in and out of buildings. There were sometimes issues, so that's getting addressed. They've said they're buffing the med kit, and it heals all squads in a radius around the kit instead of just the squad picking it up, so I'm sure that's good. Obviously, they're having to increase the cost to account for that. But it lasts for 30 seconds as well, so this seems pretty powerful in all honesty. I personally did use these kits, I found them okay, but a lot of people in various threads are saying they weren't good at all. That, you know, I think they're wrong. They're making cluster bombs easier to react to. Not sure how this change works, but they're saying that's what they're doing. I found them a little bit difficult to dodge, but not totally difficult to dodge. I didn't think they were that bad in all honesty, but whatever. They're buffing the... This is all to do with commander abilities, by the way, just to keep an eye on what segment we're in. They're making the Commander Doctrine Assault a bit better. Aimstrong, who's a great Brit player, he's sometimes number 1, sometimes number 2 in the world. He's already thought this ability was good. Look into that what you will. They've now made it slightly bit better. Smoke Raid, activation delay, stand fast. To be honest, I don't play enough Brits to understand this. Hold down, I understand, though. Making the cast time a lot less. But removing the offensive bonuses. So it's quicker to perform, but now it's just a defensive thing. I'm sure it'll see more usability because of that, and you are really vulnerable whilst trying to deploy it, especially against mortar fire, etc. The Elite Troops Doctrine has had its damage removed, or damage minimalised from 40 to 5. I think that's a good change. Personally, I did find that the stun grenades were overly punitive. They were very difficult to dodge because they seem to affect pretty much nearly anything unless you literally pegged it as soon as you saw one getting cast. So the fact that it has no damage now is, in my opinion, a decent change. You'll have to follow up with a Rifle Nage if you want to cause the damage. Population changes. Now, my criticism here is there is no before to after. I've been told stuff like the Panzer IV has been increased to 14, and that's not overly popular, but from what I understand, it's to possibly make it less spammable in team games whilst making it pretty much the same in 1v1. So, yeah, without the before figure, it's very difficult for somebody that hasn't got their head fully in the figures to appreciate. I'm somebody that plays the game and mostly casts the game. I cast top-level players and I organise tournaments. So that's my level of understanding. I'm not a statistician like Mr. Smith or Mirage of Flaw or Cruzy or any of these guys that fully know all the PopCap figures. I have to hover over the tooltips. So if you're going to make patch notes, please include the before figures as well as the after figures, because you know, I'm a pretty hardcore community member and I'd have to go into the game to actually appreciate what you're writing here. So just a, you know, mortars, it seems like literally every mortar's being nerfed in some way. I think the yellow cover change is the most interesting. Literally every single mortar has been either normalized or nerfed. Mostly reload times are being increased to make them less rapid, so you can't just build 2 mortars and then constant fire, unable to dodge and constantly out of cover and getting picked off by rifles with bars, etc. So it looks like all of these changes relate to that idea, and I think that's fairly interesting. Even touches upon the pack howitzer. British mortar should be possibly a little bit more usable now. I think that's a big change there. 400 to 350 manpower. British mortar is hardly ever getting used in a competitive setting. And I think it's interesting that the squad size of the 120 mil has been reduced to 5. Why not just make it so it can't operate with 1 man? You know, it can operate with 1 man. It is quite an expensive mortar, but it's a nuke cannon. So it's an interesting change. I'm sure it'll work in nerfing it, but yeah, I don't really want to get into mortars too much. I don't particularly like them or use them, and I have a huge distaste for casting games that heavily involve them. So there are a definite feature of the game that should be a feature of the game, so I'm glad overall they're getting nerfed across the board or normalized, whichever way you want to look at it. They should be less spammable. Snipers are being entrusted across the board. They now have 100% accuracy versus garrisons. Fantastic change. Ever since 2013, or possibly earlier, I have wanted this to be the case, and now it finally is the case, so I'm a happy bunny in that regard. Snipers should be a garrison counter. To counteract this, they have a received accuracy that was increased from 40% of bullets fired land to 65%. That's huge. That's really big. So the received accuracy there will affect them, will make them a lot more flankable. You will pretty much have to retreat if you are found out in the open by anything more than a combat engineer, in all honesty. Because you don't want to risk it, right? And all snipers, if you've probably read further on, are now one man, including the Soviet. But we'll get onto that later. Ready aim time increased by half a second. That's pretty big as well. But as I say, it's kind of offset with them now being an anti-garrison sniper unit. It's just, that's pretty good, I guess. Additional boost against snipers. These guys have been given improved accuracy multiplier 1.5. Stuart, AEC, T-70, Puma, and the Panzer II. So, fair enough. Makes them more betterer at being sniper hunters. So there you go. Standardization of Panthers. This is huge. Really like it. They have had to increase the fuel cost of the Wehrpanther. Panzer. But as to compensate all of that now, their HP is a lot larger. It's increased by 160 health points. The far accuracy has also been buffed. The front armor, however, has been reduced. So the HP and the frontal armor kind of offset, so you're more likely to get penetrated, but you'll be able to take more damage. But this is the biggest one for me. It's reload time. The reload time of the OKW Panther in particular was obnoxious. So it being, reduced by a whole 20% there is pretty good. That's like, that's going to be quite tasty. But then again, they are more flankable. So overall, it's not crazy, but they possibly are in their best spot yet. Very funny. That is the ongoing patch note joke that a lot of developers seem to have. This is Relics right now. Anyway, on to Wehrmacht-specific changes. The 222 has had a triple change. Now, I'm never a fan of triple changes, so let's see which way this goes. Manpower has been reduced. It's been decreased by 20% to 200. Okay, that's pretty big. Frontal armor has been increased. Rear armor has been increased. That is a triple buff. Why do they always have to triple buff or triple nerf? Why can't they just do two things maybe? Or two things and a nerf offsetting one another? Why do they have to... Why couldn't they just decrease the manpower? Why did they have to decrease the manpower and increase the armor frontally and rearly, if that's a word? Not too much of a fan of that. Don't quite understand why that is the case. Just in general, I'm sure they're fine, but maybe they're not. Please, just in general, if you're going to change something, just change 1 or 2 stats, not 3. Relics seem to nerf up in 3s. Rant over. Panzer Grenadiers, not a fan of the Panzerschreck changes, must admit. I like the fact that they have smoke now. That's pretty cool, I guess. Did they need smoke? Was there enough other things with smoke? Possibly not. To my knowledge now, this is the only thing within Tiers 1 and 2 that's infantry base that has smoke from the get-go in the Wehrmacht doctrine tree, unless they get something that's non-doctrinal. Or doctrinal. Yeah, doctrinal's the word. Like a commander-based thing. Anyway, the Panzerschreck upgrades to get 2 of the babies is now 100 munitions. So, that's interesting. That's like, that's not too crazy, but this is crazy. They've also increased the far accuracy, so you can pick off tanks a little bit, well, quite a lot better actually, nearly a third better. That's, yeah, why are they doing 3 buffs? Why 3? Why not just 2? Why 3? Why do you have to buff in 3s or nerf in 3s? Please, just refrain. Please refrain from doing this. Do 2 of these things, maybe. See how it goes. That's, yeah, you get my thoughts on that. Brumbear, I thought it was fine. I thought it's in the best position I've ever seen it. It's actually being used now, but not overused. This is a completely unnecessary change if I've ever seen one. It costs a decent amount, and it comes out at the right time. It's used, but it's powerful. It's powerful but expensive and counterable. So why is it being touched? I don't understand it. Is there something I don't know from team games? I just don't understand. I just think scratch Brumbear changes. Damage reduction load from 20 to 10 for the Command Panzer 4. Yeah, I'm sure. I thought that'd been touched loads recently. I thought that had been nerfed quite a lot, to be honest, already. I haven't experienced it being that bad. I don't play much team games or situations where that's like used with 4 Panzer 4s. If you say so, I'm not sure on that one. Now, the Stug is again being changed. This vehicle's probably had the most changes out of any other than maybe Penal Battalions, that one patch. But over the course of the game series, the Stug has been everything. It's been a tank destroyer and an infantry self-propelled support gun. On and off, it was doing that for like 3 years. You didn't know which... you could tune in after 2-month layoff and you're like, right, what is it this time? Is it a tank destroyer or a self-propelled gun? At the moment, it's a tank destroyer, and it's had its reload delay at veterancy 0 increased by 1.5 seconds, just to make it so the rate of fire isn't so great. If you say so. Apparently, they could be spammed a lot. I didn't think that was that bad. Seems team game specific to me. I'm not... I don't understand this. So... I don't understand these team game specific changes, and to me, it just seems like changes for the sake of it. Now, this is interesting, and I am going to be more positive. I think I have been positive at least once, maybe. The Panther changes, that was the last time I was positive. Everything since then I've been negative, so I'm not going to change. If it's just how I see it. Sniper changes for Soviets. I do believe they should be one man. It seems very late in the game to make them one man, but I'll have to wait and see how this plays out. I'm sure a lot of thought and effort has been put into this particular change because they know it would have been controversial, so I'm sure they've playtested it, and I haven't, because there is no mod for this right now, so I'm just ready to see what that feels like, ready to get into a cast and watch top-level players play with snipers, and see what happens. Katyusha, I did find it difficult to dodge if you're on negative cover or something, or if you're on a road, or it's situational. Even if you retreat sometimes, it'll still get you. So the fact that the reload time in between volleys is now a little bit higher, you know, not much higher, 20% higher, I can vaguely understand. But yeah, conscripts are now back to 2 PPSHs. Now, I remember when they were 2 PPSHs, they were not used. So they've now been put back into obscurity. I hate this change. What's the point? When they were 2 PPSHs, nobody used them. So you changed them to 3 PPSHs. I remember that 2 years ago. Remember it well. And people started using them. Took them a while, but they started using them eventually. I think there was a slight buff maybe last year or something. Now the Mosin Nagants are better. At least the other 4 guys on that squad will have better fire accuracy. So, in theory, it possibly shouldn't be as obscure as it once was. Because once it was really obscure, right? So I'm willing to give it a try. But my hunch says that taking away it from having 3 submachine guns to 2 and 4 rifles is not right. And I don't like it. And I just think you should possibly maybe make the upgrade a tiny bit more expensive. If you wanted, if you thought they were too easy to obtain or something, or too easy to flood the field with them and start blobbing around in team games. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that's possibly what's happening here. There's like 3v3 games out there where you've got like a 5 conscript blob with PPSHs just so, you know, om nom 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 nom, being a huge amoeba and eating everything. But to me, that's unnecessary. Su-76. Now, I know this could be spammed, and I know this was becoming meta for Soviets. I know if it had been left, Loveness, Devem, Von Asten, all these Von Ivan, all these Soviet players that were going to be playing Soviets in GCS2, possibly might have, if they're in a bit of a tricky spot, they might just like go down to Su-76 spam, you know, with that field artillery, etc. That said, I don't know what the penetration was before because, as I've said, I'm not a statistician. They said they're increasing the accuracy and decreasing the penetration. So it's not as good against heavy tanks, so you have to progress through the tiers, and you can't just spam them. I don't like this. The reason I don't like it is because I like the idea that it was something different, that you could go for Stug spam or Su-76 spam. If you were unhappy with people spamming tier 3 tank destroyers, you should increase the price of tier 3 tank destroyers. Don't make tier 3 tank destroyers not able to counter heavy tanks. It seems to me there's a phobia with Mr. Smith and Kyle and whoever is involved. There's an absolute phobia in increasing the cost of things if they're powerful. Instead of increasing the cost of things, they decrease the power of things. I like powerful things that cost a lot. Not Tiger Ace, that's crazy. But I always remember in Code 1, there was the Stu 42. It was 500 manpower, which was a lot of manpower, but it was OP. Well, it wasn't OP because that implies it was imbalanced. It was balanced, but it was stupidly powerful. Panzer Elite Panzer IV infantry tanks, stupidly powerful. They were game-endingly powerful. If your opponent went for it and you didn't see it coming, yeah, you best have an AT gun or you're screwed. That should have a part in this game. This game shouldn't be like this kind of tepid, homogenous mess where everybody has to go through all the tech trees and have a 40-minute game every single time. There should be really powerful shit that costs a lot. If there's something really powerful, like 3 Su-76s are really good, maybe just increase the price of an Su-76 a little bit, so you can't spam them quite as much. I don't know. I don't see any economy changes, just stat changes to the damage and the accuracy and the penetration. To damage, accuracy, penetration, these are all lowered to make things less spammable, and it makes it just, to me, like everything's a bit more homogenous and less lethal, and there's more reaction team times and less skill involved in the game. You could argue with me about the less skill element. Probably I'm wrong, but I'm just, yes, whatever. Speed penalties. They've changed the focus sight. Sight activation bonus applies with a delay of 5 seconds. I don't know what it was before. You didn't tell me, so I can't comment on that. If I knew all the stats off by heart, I'd be able to read this and say, oh yeah, that used to be 4.5 seconds. It's now 5. But as you say, we are lowering the PTRS deflection damage. This is good. I like this because PTRSs shouldn't be able to keep heavy tanks out of the game. They should, you know, do their role, which is being a soft counter and countering light vehicles. So that makes sense. I like it. Given the satchel no longer cancels when units exit range, we are giving its range, reducing its range of activation. Fair enough. I'm sure that works. Guard's pot cap increased and CP requirements increased to 3. Now, let's put ourselves in Soviet shoes. This is huge, by the way. This is possibly, for the current 1v1 meta, one of the biggest changes in the entire patch. So, the timing of guards right now allows Soviet players to stall for T-70s. Without the guards coming out at that moment, Soviet players will possibly have to get a Zis gun instead of a Maxim, which means their fuel economy will be lowered because they won't be able to keep as much of the map as they wanted. They'll have to fight in their own side of the map for longer without able to protect the flanks against Foch Grenadiers or against Grenadiers with G43s at this point. Well, possibly not at that point, but you know what I mean. Increasingly so. So all I'm saying is that waiting for that wheel to get to 3 just so you can get your guards out means that guards are possibly going to be a lot less seen now in the super competitive elite side of things. And we might be seeing more penal battalions with those god-awful penal battalions with the PTRSs, which from a historical authenticity and realism standpoint, it just makes me cringe. Not that this game is realistic, but I like unit roles to make sense within the vague setting. Whatever, don't get me started on that, but I just don't like this change. Guards are fine. I don't mind them. They're great. Cost shitloads. They drop weapons all the time. They have a huge manpower cost to reinforce. I think guards are powerful but balanced right now. I don't necessarily see a huge problem with them. They are powerful. They cost. They are bad for a Soviet's economy if he goes more than one guard squad right now in a 1v1 or in a 2v2. If you get 2 guard squads, you're going to be fucked up by Wehrmacht mortars and snipers and all sorts. Well, not mortars maybe not anymore, but you know what I mean. So I'm really scared that we're getting changes of this magnitude to the 1v1 meta so close to the tournaments I'm running, but that's because I'm a selfish bastard. So yeah, I might be wrong, but to me that could change too much. Anyway, I'll try and speed up a little bit now. I've probably been talking for way too long. ISU is receiving a slight increase in scatter. I'm sure that's fine. I never see ISUs. IL-2 loiters, though. Oh, thank God this is getting nerfed. Oh, thank you, Relic. Thank you, Mr. Smith, Mirageflaw, Kyle, whoever's finally nerfed this piece of shit. This hunk of junk flying through the sky, ruining my casts, killing my ears. That's wonderful. It's being nerfed. Great. Probably nerfed too much. Probably nerfed into non-existence. I don't give a shit. It just makes an awful noise when it's on the battlefield, and it ruins my casts. So thanks that God. That's going. Tank Hunters, to make the commander applicable to larger variety of situations, replacing the ML20 with a B4. Haha, I like it. That's great. That is sexy, because we all want to see more B4s in the game, and they're really difficult to make work. They're RNG as fuck, and they're just crazy. So, whatever. Let's have some B4s in our lives. Starting fuel for the OKW reduced to 5. Okay. Whatever, I suppose. Flame Grenade now requires HQ building for Photon Grenadiers. That makes sense. I found it a bit disturbing that they got that before the conscripts got their Molotov. Concussion Grenades, damage reduced to 5. Good, good, good. Sturm Tiger, stun duration. Again, I don't see why the Sturm Tiger is being changed. Super powerful. Really situational. Okay, fair enough. I'm sure you know more about it than I do, so I'll just back away from that one. Right, fuel cost of the mechanized reduced. Interesting. I think that this is from a month and a half ago, and I think some players have started using mechanized again already. I did think that the 75 seconds for the Lukes was a bit silly, so I like the fact that it's now 60. But that is a double buff to the Luke's time, because it's now... Oh, no, sorry, the 5 here, don't forget they lose 5 here, so that this change doesn't really matter. So don't worry about that. It's more just the Luke's comes out 15 seconds earlier. Not the end of the world, it's fine. Now, Flak half-track, been using a lot of this myself recently. It is borderline OP. Concealment smoke increased from... Vet to 1 decreased, nice, but it costs 35 rather than 25 now. That's pretty big, you know, because you won't have munitions for Faust and shoe mines as well. Well, you will, but not as much. So that's pretty good. I like that change. As somebody that uses it as a get-out-of-jail-free card all the time recently, I can confirm it is that, so it doesn't need to be nerfed a little bit. It is cheap as fuck. Suppression reduced by half. It does suppress a little bit too quickly. Makes sense. Good change. HQ upgrades to British. From what I've heard, by the way, the British changes are relatively fine. I don't know enough about British. Now, what a lot of people might do when they're talking about patch notes is just blag it and go through changes they know nothing about and bore the shit out of everybody. But this is not my area of of expertise. I've never really cast many players playing British. I've never really played the British. I know they exist. I know some players that play them well, but in general, I don't have much of an opinion on it. My areas of expertise have already been spoken about. So I will leave it to other people to cover their thoughts on the British, and if you have yours, I actually genuinely want to know what you think. So if there's any Royal Hants out there, Helping Handses, Aimstrongs, who else is decent at British? Don't look at my player card, Jesus Christ. There are people that play them, I'm sure of it. J for Jet's good at them. Paul, Caesar, they can all play them to a decent standard. Please offer your opinions, because mine are invalid on that topic. But that's all for this YouTube video. I'm sure it's overran horrifically. I originally wanted to run through the notes very quickly, and I even didn't do an entire faction. But thank you for watching. I'm sure there'll be plenty of other good stuff coming up on this YouTube soon. I think the Ultimate Team Tournament's rolling on. We've got the quarterfinals finishing up on Sunday, and the semi-finals following up the week after, so be on the lookout for stuff like that. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Cheers, guys. Let's see how